Next, we will take up item number 13. And that was pulled by Councilmember Palmisano.
Mr. Chair, first, do I have an equal amount of time to others on this body?
You certainly do.
Thank you. I just wanted to know before I start.
Yeah, let me know if you want to ask a question of the city attorney and whether or not you'd want to get back into queue after that.
I don't have any comments for anybody.
Okay.
I'm glad the state put this enabling legislation in place for recuperative care facilities. There's significant progress done, and these kinds of recuperative facilities exist in our space, have existed in my ward, and I've responded to inquiries about these kinds of facilities for years. The ones in my ward are typically in retrofitted duplexes. One of the big challenges of them, transit is really hard. Transit is really hard for the people in and out of these kinds of facilities, and particularly around the edges of our city, like my ward. So I like that this is on a transit corridor, and this facility is planned to be close to other amenities. We got an incredible amount of feedback on this. There was a large outcry from people nearby, residents and business owners alike, saying their corridor can't safely support it. And I don't really have a comment on that part, just want to acknowledge the amount of input that we've gotten on this. But here's the thing that I just cannot get past, the part that feels really uncomfortable. This is proper zoning. City planners did their job. This type of use is allowed here. But when I reached out to ask, wait, how do you fit all of these things, a bed, a desk, a chair, into each of these rooms for people coming out of hospital care that are 8 by 8, 8 feet by 8 feet? A woman with an adult son who has disabilities is who brought it to my attention. She's seen the best and the worst facilities. And she's taught me a little bit about what it's like to be living in these kinds of facilities. We have to acknowledge that something isn't big enough for a hospital bed in a wheelchair, perhaps. We have to acknowledge that it's certainly not big enough for a bed, a wheelchair, personal storage, and medical supplies, because these units are smaller than jail cells. And in the item that was postponed on Nicollet, by the way, a similar facility, those units are even smaller. The reimbursement schedule codified in state law seems to suggest that these operators could do a lot better than a jail cell. Furthermore, this site plan had zero access to any kind of natural light until my colleague suggested skylights. I think that was Councilmember Jenkins, so thank you for that. So I also reached out to code compliance. This isn't on their desk yet, so it's important for concerned people to know that this isn't yet done. This isn't a dwelling unit, each of these rooms, otherwise they'd have more regulated space. They're a sleeping space. There's other things, though, like fire code and other things that might be needed, and the state hasn't even gotten in and legislated that part of these kinds of facilities. So I will need to take comfort in the fact that our code enforcers on the inside of this site plan are still going to need to look at it. There might still be a lot of changes on the inside of this building. But I cannot see this space supporting 24 individual units like this. It's outrageous. It feels like we're setting up a disaster, and I absolutely urge them to do better.
Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Council President Payne. I need to acknowledge, I think Councilmember Palmisano has made a comment twice now about you potentially having given her less time to speak on the dais. You don't control the timing. The timing is set by the clerks. I just wanted to mention that because Councilmember Palmisano also accused me of getting her off queue in PHS. I don't control the queue in PHS either. And I just want to make it clear that, to the public, the president does not set the timer. That is done by the clerks. Chairs cannot remove people or those comments need to be acknowledged, and I don't want the public to think that the president is doing something intentionally, and that's just unfair, and I want to make sure to call it out.
I appreciate that. I'll also acknowledge that I interpreted Palmisano to be complete in their questions when I handed the cue off back to the city attorney. So,
and there was 3 minutes and 24 seconds left, Councilmember Chavez.
Let's move on. Let's all move on. Let's all move on. I appreciate both of you trying to keep this meeting moving in an efficient way. Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to take a moment to also acknowledge all of the public comment that we received on this item. Lots of public comment at the Planning Commission, lots of public comment in the Biz Committee. And I wanted to just appreciate that the work that was done out of the committee on the conditions that were added. I, too, had a conversation with Councilmember Jenkins about the importance of natural light, so was very happy to see that skylight condition was added. I wanted to highlight some of the other conditions and also share with the public and the greater body that this is an interim use permit, so there was a application for a use permit that was pulled, and then this applicant came for temporary, I think, up to 5 years, and so that's set to expire on September 24th. And the other conditions that were proposed is the applicant shall have like a smoking area located at least 30 feet away from the adjacent property that was really responsive to community feedback. The surface parking lot shall be screened on the north and west sides with screening that's at least 3 feet tall, at least 60% opaque to comply with Chapter 550, Article 5 Site Plan Review. The facility shall maintain a 1-to-8 ratio for both security and nursing staff. The applicant shall appoint a community liaison officer who will serve as a primary contact for local businesses and residents, and contact information for said officer shall be posted in the area visible to the public. And I think this applicant, compared to other applicants, really worked with our committee and the community to go to extra lengths to be accepting towards these conditions, especially as there were concerns around security, and I'll kind of speak to that. One of the unfortunate things that came out of the public hearing is there was a lot of unfortunate rhetoric dehumanizing unhoused people in our community, really aimed at them, even if the clients that are coming to this recuperative care actually may not identify as unhoused. And there was just a lot of conversation about what could these types of people do in the community that would endanger others. And that type of othering, I just need to state, any opportunity there is really dangerous. It leads to violent behavior towards people who are homeless, towards people who are in poverty, towards people that need government assistance, like this type of recuperative care facility where agencies like Hennepin County direct individuals who need a place where they can get a care at the time of a visit. So wanted to make that point clear. And then I'll also note one thing that we learned both with this application and the other application that's going to be coming back to Biz on a recuperative care facility is that the State Department of Human Services still needs to review their license and still needs to work with them. They're coming to us for a zoning and use purpose, and that is necessary in order for them to show to the state that that they're moving forward and having this type of facility. So there is other oversight that's happening here. I hear Councilmember Palmisano and her concerns, and I would help support her in connecting with the state level, and then also conversations with the applicant as well. We want to make sure that if folks are getting recuperative care, it's good care. I do have trust in this applicant to be responsive to requests and changes as they have been through this, I would say, pretty difficult permit process through our city committees. So just wanted to share that context and wanted to also give my appreciation to our city staff for working on this and working on this with BIZ committee members.
Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, President Payne. I serve on the BIZ committee as well, so I just want to give a little perspective on what I think might be a possible route for us to address this new permitting type of facility, this recuperative care facility license that DHS is introducing. This facility will be for individuals receiving direct referrals for recuperative care, which is a need demonstrated by the capacity levels of existing recuperative providers, some of which I've spoken to in the last few weeks, including Catholic Charities that has a large recuperative care facility downtown. I do share Councilmember Palmisano's and others' apprehension around the DHS permitting process here, how that's going to play out, as well as the construction and building permits that they'll need to pull to get up to code. I think 8x8 rooms is concerning, and I would hope that our code doesn't allow for any unsafe conditions. But the point that I wanted to make here and to open with staff and with other council members is that I believe the city and the county should be taking a more proactive role in identifying zoning sites and buildings for shelters and all of the range of supportive housing needs that we have in the county, because the work of identifying a proper site that meets the zoning code and then identifying the construction plans to meet the building code is really challenging work, and I don't think it should be left solely on providers, some of which are new to being providers. So I would encourage, appropriate city staff to work with me and other council members on having a conversation about what more support from the public side, from the city or the county side, on identifying sites for shelters would look like. And I also think that the additional conditions that were added to this, both to have a liaison that works with neighboring businesses, as well as addressing, the smoking location, because there is an educational facility for kids right next door, adding the skylights provision. I think these are all really good conditions for us to keep in mind. This might be the first recuperative care facility coming forward for us, but it will not be the last. So we do have more work in front of us.
Vice President Chugtai.
Thank you, Mr. President. This item, this facility, 918 Westlake, is located in Ward 10. So I want to start by thanking several people. First, the residents in Ward 10 who have contacted my office, who have contacted all of you. I apologize for what's happened with your inboxes, and thank you for your grace. With concerns on this project, I believe that the direct feedback that we have received from residents in the surrounding community has actually helped inform several of these new conditions that are added to as a part of the approval of this application. Wanted to also thank the planning staff that have been working so diligently, both on making sure that the decision makers at the Planning Commission and at the BIZ committee had all of the information they needed, and also I heard really excellent feedback from residents who were directly getting in touch with planning staff and hearing back in a timely manner and getting really thorough information. That work is deeply, deeply appreciated. And then I wanted to thank Councilmember Chowdhury, who represents this body on the Planning Commission. I got regular updates from her as this moved through the Planning Commission process. I know there were some delays at the Planning Commission level, in addition to the committee level in BIZ, and members of the BIZ committee for your work in making sure that these new conditions that address some of the concerns raised were included. It's important to note here that this facility is a medical respite center, and it allows residents to receive care and treatment, medical care and treatment that they need and deserve after emergency department visits, receiving surgery or other forms of initial care from medical professionals. This is not a shelter facility. This is not a shelter the way we understand it in community. Making sure that every person has a safe place to recover and receive medical care that they need is something I would want for myself. I think we'd all want for our loved ones, and should want for unhoused residents too. This facility helps fill a gap that has been identified by our hospital systems, and is needed in our community. The specific conditions, I know Councilmember Chowdhury spoke to this as well, but for adding that skylight, that natural light, the designated smoking area, the parking lot screening, the 1-to-8 ratio for staff to residents that are staying at this facility, or patients that are at the facility, a community liaison and available contact information. These are all important steps that show that this applicant is willing to put in the work to be a good neighbor and to really be responsive to the concerns that are being raised by the community. And I'm excited to vote for approval of this interim use permit today. Thank you.
So, seeing no one left in queue, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on item number 13, interim use permit for Lakeshore Care, 918 West Lake.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Vito.
No.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Walmsley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
No.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Vice President Shabtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes, 2 nays.
That item carries.